In the haze of a recent night out, emboldened by a few drinks, I let slip a remark to my husband that I now desperately wish I could retract, and it has left our marriage hanging by a thread. To give some context, my husband and I first met as teenagers, both working at the same call center. There was no chemistry between us back then. He went off to college, while I stayed at the job until I graduated high school. 5 years later, our lives intersected again. We started dating and eventually married. Now we're raising 2 young children. He's 27, I'm 25, and last fall, about 6 months after our second child was born, I began taking a new birth control pill. It came with unexpected side effects, including a complete disinterest in physical intimacy. My husband would try to initiate closeness, but I consistently turned him away. After 2 weeks of rejection, he stopped making any attempts. A week later, frustrated by his retreat, I confronted him sharply, demanding to know why he'd given up on being close with me. Not long after, we went on our first real date night since the baby's birth. We stopped at a bar near our house for drinks, and as the alcohol loosened my tongue, I admitted to my husband that I felt a pang of guilt, as if I'd been unfaithful to him. Concerned, he urged me to explain. Under the influence, I revealed a dream I'd had the previous week about a former coworker from our call center days. In the dream, this man confessed his feelings for me, and I returned them. Making matters worse, I pulled out my phone and began scrolling through this man's social media profile right in front of my husband, commenting on mundane details and even critiquing the appearance of a woman in one of his photos. As if that weren't reckless enough, I went on to describe a brief romantic moment I'd shared with this coworker after my husband had left for college. I recalled how this man used to tease me playfully in my husband's presence, and described a charged encounter when he pinned me against a wall, confessing how exhilarating it had felt. In a moment of utter foolishness, I even admitted that I brought it up because I yearned for my husband to spark that same kind of passion in me. The next morning, my husband was furious, not just about my drunken revelations, but about my behavior over the past month. He was deeply hurt that I'd shown no physical interest in him for weeks, yet openly fixated on another man's social media and reminisced about past romantic encounters in his presence. Looking back, his anger grew even more when I awkwardly offered to be intimate right then, as if to make up for my words. He lashed out, pointing out that I'd kept my body off limits for a month, yet one night of talking about another man's advances seemed to reignite my desire. Reflecting on it now, I see why he felt so betrayed, especially since he'd quietly harbored feelings for me back when we first met but never acted on them. Over the past 6 months, we've had brief moments of peace where life feels normal, but those painful words I spoke keep resurfacing, igniting heated arguments. He's become fixated on the idea that I only chose him because he completed college, landed a stable job, and the other man was no longer an option. My husband now fears that, given the opportunity, I'd betray him with this former coworker, and it's tearing our relationship apart. When he later asked why I even brought up that man, I explained that it was because that time in my life symbolized a period when I felt confident and alive. Back then, I was at my lowest weight and happiest. Over the years, I've gained about 75 pounds, and my husband now believes I've stayed with him out of resignation or sadness. To him, the other man represents a version of me that was vibrant and desirable. Now, my husband has grown distant, emotionally guarded, and barely speaks to me. He no longer initiates physical affection, and we haven't been intimate in nearly 2 months. His withdrawal has even affected his interactions with our children. I love him deeply, but he's convinced my heart still belongs to someone from 8 years ago. At one point, he even said he wished I'd ended up with that man so he wouldn't be enduring this pain now. I don't want our marriage to collapse, but I can't keep living in this tense, silent standoff. I'm desperate to rebuild the connection we once had. When my husband brings up the past, he obsesses over the idea that this other man knew a younger, more carefree and passionate version of me, while he's been left with the responsibilities of marriage, parenting, bills, and a lackluster intimate life. He's tormented by the thought that I was more passionate with someone else. He even snapped, asking if I thought this man was scouring my social media, longing for the incredible woman I was back then, especially now that I've gained weight. He cruelly added that this man wouldn't even glance at me now. I've tried to explain that my feelings for the other man are long gone, and that my comments were about my own self-image, not him. They reflected a time when I felt confident and attractive, qualities I've struggled to rediscover. I've apologized countless times, promising to make things right, and for brief moments, he seems reassured. But then he spirals again and the arguments flare up. We've been together for 7 years, raising 2 children, and the thought of our marriage falling apart over this is unbearable. I've made every effort to prove my commitment. I've stopped mentioning the other man, removed him from my social media, and only discuss him when my husband insists. I've started exercising with my husband to improve my health and show my dedication to repairing our bond. Yet our physical relationship remains inconsistent, heavily dependent on whether he's dwelling on the issue. During one heated argument, he brought up my weight gain, saying harshly that the other man wouldn't even look at me now, given how much my body has changed. His words stung deeply, as I'm already painfully aware of the changes after 2 pregnancies. In these fights, he fixates on every detail I've shared. How I once called the other man attractive, his taller frame, his dark hair, and even the fact that he was my boss, which I admitted added to his appeal back then. I've repeated countless times that my comments were a fleeting moment of nostalgia, a lapse in judgment. Since starting our relationship, I've never seen that man as anything more than a memory. But even small actions like liking one of his social media posts have escalated into major conflicts. When I foolishly shared another dream about him after this all began, it only deepened my husband's pain. He keeps asking if I still fantasize about this man or if I even find him attractive anymore. I've assured him repeatedly that my love and desire are solely for him, but the wounds seem too deep. No matter how much I say or do, it feels like it's never enough. I just want to rediscover the love we had before this rift tore us apart. I stood with my arms tightly folded, my voice edged with defiance. So, you're turning this on me now? Eric sank into a chair, his face heavy with defeat, as if the weight of our struggles had finally crushed him. He twisted the cap off a water bottle, taking a slow sip before speaking. Imagine needing to disappear for a day just to find some peace. Picture that. A knot formed in my throat, but I fought to conceal it. My voice quivered with frustration. Don't try to flip this around. I see what you're doing, playing the victim to make me feel guilty. He leaned back, his expression unreadable, his words cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. All these years, I thought my job was to protect you from life's pressures. I never imagined I'd need protection from you. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. I struggled to find words, finally managing a shaky, "Are you done?" Eric nodded, standing slowly, his movements heavy with exhaustion. "Yeah, I'm done." Without another word, he retreated to the bedroom, leaving me frozen in place, his words echoing relentlessly in my mind. That night sleep was impossible. I lay in the dark, scrolling aimlessly through my phone for distraction. A video popped up, a relationship expert discussing men's silence. "Men often carry their burdens in silence," he said gravely. "They don't ask for help. They retreat." I rolled my eyes and scrolled past, but his words lingered like an unwelcome presence. The next morning Eric was gone. No note, no message. Just an empty driveway where his car should have been. My chest tightened as I typed a message. "Leaving without a word? Real mature, Eric." I sent it and waited. No reply. The kids' voices filled the house as they got ready for school, but my nerves were frayed. Logan, our 6-year-old, tugged gently at my sleeve. "Mommy, can you tie my shoes?" he asked softly, his patience piercing me. "Not now, Logan," I snapped, barely looking at him. From the next room, Emma, our 9-year-old, wailed loudly. "I can't find my tablet." "Emma, if you keep crying about that tablet, I'm going to lose it," I shouted, my voice sharper than I intended. Logan stood quietly, his wide eyes so much like Eric's, watching me. Something in his gaze stirred guilt within me. I exhaled, kneeling to tie his shoes. By early afternoon, Eric finally texted back. "I'll be home later. Don't wait up." My heart raced as I read it. I called him immediately, and when he answered, his voice was cold, distant. "What's that supposed to mean?" I demanded. "Don't wait up." "It means what it says," he replied flatly, hanging up before I could respond. That evening, Eric returned late. Much later than usual. He moved with deliberate care, placing his keys on the counter, draping his jacket over a chair, all without a word. I stood watching, anger simmering beneath my skin. His brief glance at me held no anger or exhaustion, just emptiness. "Done sulking?" I asked, my tone harsher than intended. He sighed, a low, weary sound that carried an unfamiliar weight. "I'm tired, Claire," he said softly. Something in his voice tightened my chest. It wasn't the kind of tired a good night's sleep could fix. I crossed my arms, refusing to soften. "Yeah, well, I'm tired too. You think this is easy for me?" He didn't snap back. No sharp retort or clever comeback. Instead, he just looked at me, his gaze long and searching, leaving me unsettled. "That's the problem," he said quietly. "I don't think you even know what you want. But I do now." His words hit like carefully aimed strikes. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. He didn't answer.